Our protagonist is Nanju, the grandson of a renowned master known for her precise divinations of good and bad omens, which earned her widespread fame. However, Nanju didn't learn much from her, so his knowledge of divination is minimal. His grandmother passed away some time ago, and as the new year approaches, Nanju finally returns to her home. Upon entering, he encounters Situ, a neighbor and friend who had been watching over the house for him in his absence. Nanju wonders why his grandmother's house seems to have turned into a gathering place, and Situ explains that the neighbors, knowing of Nanju's impending return, have been using the house as a spot to chat occasionally. Both the neighbors and Situ hope Nanju will carry on his grandmother's legacy and provide predictions for them. However, Nanju candidly admits he knows very little about divination. Situ questions what Nanju plans to do for a living if he can't take up the trade, reminding him of the significant debts from his grandmother's hospital stay. Nanju insists he will figure things out on his own, but Situ argues that divination is an easy way to earn money. With some effort and learning, Nanju could stabilize his life, so why not give it a try? Nanju, frustrated, tells Situ to stop nagging and go home. Before leaving, Situ leaves some feng shui books for Nanju to study and schedules a meeting the next day with one of his clients, warning that if Nanju doesn't show up, Situ won't leave. Realizing he has no choice, Nanju begins rummaging through his grandmother's belongings to find something useful. That evening, he reads through a few of her books, but the power suddenly goes out. Lighting a candle to continue reading, he finds the books quite complex. However, one book includes hand gestures for him to mimic. As he attempts to follow along, a nearby calendar mysteriously starts to move, even though there's no wind. Reading aloud and performing the hand gestures described, something extraordinary happens. A boy carrying a carp emerges from the calendar. The boy introduces himself as the calendar spirit and asks if Nanju is his grandmother's successor. Nanju, who only knew his grandmother as a feng shui master, is shocked to learn that she was also a Lai Shi. According to the calendar spirit, Lai Shi are chosen by the calendar of heaven and earth, an artifact created by an emperor that predicts all future events. The calendar spirit, like the boy, was born from human festivals and worship. There are 9 calendar spirits in total, and the calendar of heaven and earth has already informed them that Nanju is the new Lai Shi. The next morning, Nanju wakes up, thinking everything was a dream. But hearing sounds outside, he checks and finds the calendar spirit boy there, confirming that last night's encounter was real. The boy introduces himself as Zionayan, the calendar spirit representing New Year celebrations. While reading one of his grandmother's books, Nanju learns about the existence of evil spirits, entities born from humans' negative emotions. Because these emotions exist everywhere, so do the evil spirits. Ordinary people cannot see them, but Lai Shi like Nanju can. Most misfortunes in people's lives are caused by the mischief of these spirits. Later, Zionayan smells something delicious and discovers Nanju has cooked a dish. However, he is instantly disheartened when he sees the dish is fish head curry. The issue isn't the taste, it's that the fish is Zionayan's carp. Zionayan demands compensation, and Nanju, realizing his mistake, offers a turtle as a replacement. Of course, Zionayan rejects this. That afternoon, Nanju accompanies Situ to meet a client. This client immediately notices that Nanju doesn't resemble the feng shui master Situ has brought in before and doubts his abilities. The client Nanju meets is responsible for constructing a bridge, but the project has been plagued with delays due to ongoing issues. Nanju soon discovers that evil spirits have been troubling the client. He warns the man that something will happen to him that night. Just then, a phone call from the construction site reports another incident with the bridge. The three head to the bridge, and the client and Situ leave Nanju alone to deal with the spirits. Nanju takes out the calendar of heaven and earth to summon Zionayan. After an impressively dramatic summoning ritual, Zionayan appears. Though he now has a new fish, he still demands compensation from Nanju, and even throws Nanju's turtle into the river. blaming him for the rebirth and diminished size of his fish. The two then begin their mission to exorcise the evil spirits. Xiao Nian uses water bullets to attack the spirits, while Nanju wields powers granted by the calendar of heaven and earth. Xiao Nian laments that if his original fish hadn't been cooked, he could have handled the situation in one strike. However, after some time, Xiao Nian's fish runs out of energy and faints. Realizing it's past midnight, Xiao Nian notes that his shift has ended and vanishes. Left alone, Nanju is quickly surrounded by evil spirits. Suddenly, a fireball descends from the sky, dispersing the spirits. A new calendar spirit appears, accompanied by a lion that rushes toward Nanju not to attack, but to assist the spirit in fighting the evil spirits. Nanju is dragged away by the spirits, forcing the new spirit to intervene. With swift sword strikes imbued with flames, the spirit eliminates the evil spirits. As the situation worsens, he unleashes a powerful attack to swiftly annihilate them. Nanju recognizes the spirit as Luang, the calendar spirit representing New Year's Eve. Luang behaves oddly and warns Nanju to leave the area immediately. Back home, Nanju brews tea and notices a strange dog. Luang explains it's his Nyan beast, a stray he adopted. While Nanju is inside making tea, Luang suddenly becomes darkened and attacks him. Regaining his senses, Luang apologizes, but Nanju suspects something is wrong. He summons Xiao Nian to learn more. Xiao Nian explains that Luang is usually gentle, but Nanju sees him as a ticking time bomb. Chu Zai's condition results from guarding New Year's Eve, a time when evil spirits are most active, causing his body to absorb evil mist, which makes his behavior unpredictable. Xiao Nian flees, leaving Nanju alone with a kitchen knife as Luang vanishes, leaving behind a broken window. The next morning, New Year's Eve arrives. Luang's dog wakes Nanju, but Luang is nowhere to be found. A knock at the door startles Nanju, who grabs a rolling pin for protection. It turns out to be two neighborhood kids wishing him a happy new year. The boys reveal the neighborhood plans to host a New Year's party that night. Nanju suggests they hold it at his place. He asks the boy in the blue shirt about his parents, and the child sadly explains they're working far away and haven't returned. Nanju promises to cook something special for him and tells him to keep his head high like a true man. After the kids leave, Luang returns, saying he has cleared the area of evil spirits. Nanju plans to step out briefly and asks Luang to stay at the house. The people around started discussing how young parents nowadays are quite irresponsible, often leaving their children at home for the grandparents to take care of. This once again made the boy in the blue shirt feel sad. The boy then tried calling his father to ask if he would come home for the New Year's celebration, but he couldn't reach him. His negative emotions began to manifest into evil spirits. Meanwhile, Nanju drew attention because Luang, clad in his armor, followed him around in public, causing people to notice. Luang insisted that it was his duty to protect Nanju at all times. However, the only thing Luang managed to accomplish was to embarrass Nanju by continually slaying evil spirits born from animals being sold in the supermarket. This led to Nanju receiving piles of compensation bills. Nanju told Luang outright that he shouldn't interfere with the lives of ordinary people. Just then, Luang sensed something and suddenly disappeared. The boy in the blue shirt was being bullied by a local thug, who snatched his phone. The boy tried to retrieve it, but the phone accidentally fell and its screen shattered. It was the phone his parents had given him to stay in touch, and now it was broken. The thug ran away but bumped into Luang, who scared him off with his large sword. Nanju passed by and saw what had happened, so he went to comfort the boy and took him home. That evening, during the party at Nanju's house, the boy sat sullenly in a corner. Nanju realized the biggest reason for this was likely his parents' absence. To make matters worse, his friend in a brown shirt kept bragging about the new things his parents had bought him for the new year, making the boy feel even more upset. the mounting negativity caused stronger evil spirits to form. Situ also arrived at Nanju's house and asked who the armored man was. Nanju quickly explained that it was someone who had just returned from a mall festival and hadn't had time to change. Situ handed Nanju payment for their last exorcism job, though Nanju complained it was too little. Situ promised to transfer the rest later. Suddenly, Nanju noticed something unusual inside the house and went to check. He found the neighbor and her son unconscious while the boy in the blue shirt was being controlled by an evil spirit. The spirit attacked Nanju, making him recall a time when he had been just like this boy. Nanju managed to escape the mental trap and attempted to cleanse the spirit from the boy. However, the spirit began attacking everyone, forcing Luang to step in. Luang unleashed a powerful attack to completely destroy the spirit, then instructed Nanju to erase everyone's memories of the incident. Luang offered to guide him on how to do it. The boy in the blue shirt woke up and believed everything that had happened was just a dream. However, all of the events he had experienced were real. Later, the neighbor called the boy over to answer the phone. On the line was someone claiming to be a colleague of his parents, assuring him that his parents would return in a few days. The boy was told not to be sad and to cheer up. In truth, these words were from Nanju, who simply wanted to make the boy feel happier for the new year. Not long after, the clock struck midnight, marking the arrival of the new year. The next morning, as Nanju was sleeping, someone threw a firecracker into his room, forcing him to rush outside. He didn't know where the firecracker had come from until a new calendar spirit appeared behind him, Danayan, the spirit representing the early days of the new year. At that moment, the neighbor and her son arrived to wish Nanju a happy new year. Danayan explained that he had come to retaliate because Nanju had made his younger brother cry. Danayan then launched an attack with a firecracker aimed at Nanju, but Nanju dodged, causing Danayan to fall. The neighbor and her son greeted Nanju for the new year, but Nanju noticed an evil mist surrounding them. Danayan suddenly charged forward, causing a firecracker to explode and engulf the surrounding area. Nanju had to give Danayan a scolding for harming humans. However, Danayan insisted that his firecrackers only harmed evil spirits and not people. Nanju advised him not to throw firecrackers recklessly in the future, but Danayan, considering himself mature, refused to heed Nanju's lecturing tone. The neighbor mistakenly thought Danayan was Nanju's son, forcing Nanju to clarify the situation. Danayan then showcased his talent by writing couplets for New Year decorations, surprising everyone. He hung the couplets on Nanju's front door and asked the neighbor's son if he knew the reason for hanging red couplets and lighting firecrackers during the new year. Danayan explained that it was to ward off monsters that usually cause trouble during the new year, since these monsters feared the color red and disliked loud noises. The neighbor then invited everyone inside to eat dumplings. Situ also arrived to wish everyone a happy new year. Seeing Nanju enjoying himself, Situ lamented that his own new year had started with him eating porridge. Danayan remarked that eating porridge at the beginning of the year would bring poverty and bad luck for the rest of the year, provoking Situ's irritation. However, Situ refrained from arguing further as he had come to inform Nanju about a new job. Situ brought Danayan and Nanju to a museum that had been experiencing strange occurrences recently. The director of the museum had invited a feng shui master to investigate. Upon arrival, Danayan noticed the museum housed rare and invaluable ancient ceramics. Situ doubted their worth, leading to another argument between him and Danayan. The three then met the museum director, and Nanju introduced himself. The director explained that strange incidents had indeed been occurring. Suddenly, the museum experienced a power outage and tremors. Everyone evacuated while Danayan discovered evil spirits present and threw firecrackers toward them. The director, fearing damage to the priceless artifacts, stopped Danayan. Outside, the director scolded Nanju's group, but Nanju explained that the firecrackers were exorcism tools that wouldn't harm the artifacts. The director reluctantly believed him and detailed the recent events. He noted that if the situation wasn't resolved soon, more artifacts would be at risk. Recently, several artifacts had been mysteriously damaged, with clear signs of human interference, yet security cameras revealed nothing. The incidents continued without signs of stopping. Just last night, while the director was patrolling, an antique clock was suddenly destroyed. Desperate, he sought help from Nanju's group. Examining the scene, Da Nian found traces of evil spirits and observed that the damage to 4 specific artifacts formed a ritual array. Nanju proposed staying at the museum that night to confront whatever was causing the disturbances. The director, having no other options, agreed to their plan, emphasizing the importance of these artifacts, not for their monetary value, but their cultural significance. He wanted to preserve the beauty of ancient culture for future generations. That evening, Nanju and Da Nian worked together to cast protective spells over the artifacts. Only Da Nian could break the spells, ensuring their effectiveness. Soon after, the lights went out and strong winds began howling. A cat suddenly dashed into the museum, attempting to attack the artifacts. Fortunately, Da Nian's protective spells held firm. Both Nanju and Da Nian realized the attacker was a cat, but Da Nian corrected that it was actually an evil spirit. He urged Nanju to protect himself since he wouldn't be able to guard Nanju while fighting. The cat then transformed into a human-like figure, who revealed that they were a spirit born from the countless complaints of people. The figure explained that in China, when people drop objects, they often utter a phrase to ward off bad luck. These utterances had given birth to this spirit. The spirit attempted to attack Nanju, but he used his own magic to shield himself. Da Nian then used a New Year couplet to bind the spirit's hands. However, the spirit confidently declared that there was nothing it couldn't break free from. The fat spirit then used all its strength to knock away Da Nian's firecrackers. The firecrackers caused the protective spell to dissipate, allowing the fat spirit to quickly destroy the vase underneath, completing the ritual array. The vase shattered, sending a beam of light into the sky. The beam summoned dark clouds, and a black dragon appeared in the sky. The fat spirit rejoiced, believing it was close to obtaining a precious treasure. The black dragon descended and merged with Nanju's calendar. The calendar then exhibited a strange phenomenon, producing 3 new ancient artifacts. These artifacts seemed to be the treasures the fat spirit had been pursuing: a book, a scroll, and when Nanju picked up the scroll, he saw an image of Lawang within it. The final treasure was a dragon horn that transformed into a black sword, which landed in Nanju's hand. The next day, the museum director thanked Nanju because the disturbances had ceased. Da Nian praised Nanju's cleverness in swapping the real vase with a fake one. After acquiring the 3 treasures, Nanju brought them back and asked Lawang to examine them. Lawang identified the black sword as belonging to an ancient emperor. As for the ancient script in the book, he admitted he wasn't knowledgeable enough to interpret it. The characters were created by the originator of the calendar of heaven and earth. Nanju read a few words, and Lawang explained they were spells written by the creator. Realizing these were no ordinary spells, Nanju decided to focus on learning how to use them. He then remembered the scroll and opened it to find a painting. Within the painting was an image of Chu Roman 11. After staring at it for a while, Lawang felt a vague sense of familiarity with the depicted scene, but experienced a headache when trying to recall more. Nanju told him not to push himself too hard, reminding him that after living for thousands of years, it was natural not to remember everything. The two decided to go out and have fun since it was the Lantern Festival, the 15th day of the first lunar month. Outside, evil spirits began appearing, but a girl quickly dispatched them with her spirit beast. The girl then ran around enjoying the festival, and Nanju and Chu Roman 11 also decided to join the festivities. Nanju asked Lawang about today being Yunzio's festival day and wondered where the celestial calendar for the day might be. He guessed Yunzio was probably out enjoying herself somewhere nearby. Just then, a girl approached Luang, revealing herself to be Yunzio, the celestial calendar of the day. Despite her playful demeanor, Yunzio didn't neglect her duty to eliminate evil spirits, earning Nanju's praise. Yunzio invited Nanju and Luang to join her for some fun. Suddenly, Luang began to lose control of himself again. Yunzio explained that since it wasn't Chuzai's festival day, he was weaker and more prone to losing control. Chu Roman 11 experienced a severe headache and then reverted to a childlike personality. In this state, Chu Roman 11 asked Nanju to buy him candied hawthorns. Yunzio realized Luang might have been possessed by an evil spirit born from children. Nanju asked the vendor for one skewer of candied hawthorns, but Luang refused it. When asked how many he wanted, Luang declared he wanted all of them and ran off, forcing Nanju to chase after him. Nanju was repeatedly troubled by Luang's childish antics and asked Yunzio how long it would take for Luang to return to normal. Yunzio couldn't say for sure, but assured him it wouldn't take too long. Later, Nanju and the two celestial calendars joined in releasing lanterns to make wishes. This reminded Nanju of his grandmother. Yunzio then invited Nanju to visit a nearby temple to seek a divination lot. At this moment, Luang began showing signs of returning to normal. At the temple, Nanju helped an elderly woman retrieve her fallen divination lot. Yunzio checked to see if Nanju had drawn his own lot, but the elderly woman then asked both of them for assistance. They accompanied the elderly woman back to her home, where they were greeted by her grandson. At the house, Nanju noticed that the calendar hadn't been torn for a month. The table was dusty, and belongings seemed packed for moving. Yunzio started preparing food, while Nanju noticed the cakes Yunzio offered him. When he asked Luang if he wanted some, Luang declined. Nanju immediately understood the reason Yunzio's cooking was terrible. Her technique wasn't bad, but her knowledge about flavors and ingredients was lacking. The elderly woman approached Nanju once more, handing him a box and asking him to deliver it to her son. Suddenly, a couple arrived, surprised to find their son there. Seeing Nanju's group, they grew suspicious, thinking the three of them were human traffickers. Nanju explained that they were invited in by the elderly woman and her grandson, not trespassers. However, the man claimed his mother had passed away some time ago, making him doubt Nanju's story. Nanju handed over the box the elderly woman gave him, but the man knocked it aside in frustration. When the contents spilled out, he paused and finally sat down to listen. It was then that Nanju realized the elderly woman had indeed passed away long ago, which explained why the house was so worn down. Inside the box was a toy the man had once wanted his mother to buy for him, but someone else had gotten to it first. Out of love for her son, the elderly woman had gone far away to buy the toy and kept it safe all these years. Along with the toy was a drawing the man had made as a child. The man recounted how much he had loved his mother, especially since his father had passed away early. He also remembered how, after a serious accident, his mother had begged the doctor to save him. The doctor did everything possible to help him recover. During his hospital stay, his mother stayed by his side, caring for both him and his wife. The three of them had taken a photo together during that time, and not long after, the couple had a child, leading to another family photo. In recent years, however, the man had become so busy that he couldn't return home to celebrate the new year with his mother. Knowing she didn't have much time left, the elderly woman had written a letter to her son's family. The money her son sent her every month was carefully saved, as she barely spent any of it, intending to pass it on for her grandson's education. In her letter, she expressed her regret at not being able to celebrate one last New Year with her son's family. Now, she could finally rest in peace. This became a lesson for everyone. No matter how busy life gets, always make time for your loved ones. Don't wait until it's too late to regret lost opportunities. The man's family burned lanterns to send their wishes to the elderly woman. Nanju's group, having completed their task, also left. Several days later, Nanju encountered a new celestial calendar who introduced himself as Hua Zhao, the deity representing China's ancient flower viewing festival. This festival was once popular in the past when young women would offer flowers to the gods, but it had since faded into obscurity, with only a few places still preserving the tradition. Hua Zhao remarked that human life was like a flower. It blooms briefly and then withers. He believed that, one day, all festivals would be forgotten, and celestial calendars like him would gradually fall into eternal slumber. Nanju expressed his desire to prevent people from forgetting such festivals, but Hua Zhao replied that life and death follow their destined paths, and one should face what comes with acceptance. As they talked, they noticed a girl hugging a nearby tree. She longed to see the tree bloom with a sick friend, but being blind, she couldn't see the blossoms for herself. Hua Zhao handed her a leaf to help her imagine the flowers. When they asked how she got there, she explained that a friend had accompanied her. That friend turned out to be Situ, who came running but tripped, prompting Nanju to help him up. Situ had a wound on his arm, from which evil spirits suddenly emerged. Hua Zhao quickly healed the wound and Situ introduced the girl as a nin. The two groups chatted for a while before a nin decided to leave. As she and Situ departed, Hua Zhao warned Nanju about the dangerous level of evil mist that had escaped from Situ's wound. However, when Nanju returned, he was puzzled because no evil spirits lingered around Situ. Hua Zhao explained that the evil spirits they encountered that day weren't born from Situ, but were brought there by someone else. However, Hua Zhao did not detect any evil mist on Ning either, so Nanju asked him to check on the situation around her. Not long after, Situ unexpectedly arrived, bringing food for Nanju. Immediately, Nanju knew that Situ must have come because of something related to Ning. In reality, Situ simply felt sorry for Ning. She had lost her eyesight due to an accident, and now her only companion was a dog. He couldn't bear to leave her alone. The dog was also the friend Ning had wanted to take along to see the flowers. Unfortunately, the dog was old and sick, meaning it wouldn't be able to stay by her side much longer. Ning frequently contacted a veterinarian, hoping to extend the dog's life. One day, she went out to buy some supplies, and the store clerk reminded her to be careful, as strange occurrences had been happening at night. After finishing her shopping, she headed home. As she walked into an alley near her house, she suddenly heard the eerie sound of the wind howling. Growing uneasy, she took a step back, just as a man pushing a cart loaded with cardboard boxes passed by. Out of nowhere, a dark figure lunged forward, forcefully knocking over the cart. The boxes were about to fall on Ning when Hua Zhao swiftly cast a spell to protect her. She recognized his voice and asked what had happened, but he brushed it off as a minor accident and assured her that everything was fine. However, Hua Zhao had realized that the appearance of the evil spirits was somehow connected to Ning. Meanwhile, Situ, who had gotten drunk, suddenly admitted that he truly liked Ning. Hua Zhao soon returned to inform Nanju of the situation, but as soon as Situ heard that Ning was in danger, he lost his composure. Hua Zhao left behind a flower branch to protect Ning, and at that moment, she reunited with her guide dog trainer. The trainer had come to advise her to get a new guide dog, as her current one was no longer fit for the job. However, Ning stubbornly refused. By then, her dog had been severely infected by the evil mist and had gone berserk. The protective flower branch activated its effect, forcing Hua Zhao to act first, while Situ and Nanju chased after him. The two of them climbed up to Ning's room, only to find both her and the trainer unconscious. Situ, too, was quickly knocked out by the evil spirits. Hua Zhao, already weakened, could not hold out much longer and was also defeated. Nanju had no choice but to draw his black sword to deal with the situation. With a single strike, he dispelled the evil mist, leaving behind the exhausted dog. Hua Zhao then created an illusion for both the dog and Ning, a space where she could see her dog and witness the blooming flowers she had always longed to admire together with it. In that moment, she realized how selfish she had been, holding on to the dog and causing it prolonged suffering. This realization finally gave the dog peace, allowing it to pass away without regrets. Not long after, Nanju took Sidhu to go flower viewing, where they saw Ning with her new guide dog, also admiring the blossoms. A few days later, a neighboring aunt visited Nanju's house to inform him that today was the Hanshi festival. Several elderly men in the neighborhood wanted to visit and play mahjong at his place, to which he agreed. It was then that he encountered the celestial calendar spirit of the day. The spirit introduced himself as Han Shi and, like Hua Zhao before him, appeared to be in a weakened state. Since guests were about to arrive at Nanju's home, he led Han Shi outside for a conversation. Han Shi explained that, like Hua Zhao, he was gradually fading as people forgot about their festivals, causing his power to wane significantly. The Hanshi festival was believed to commemorate a deity, but in truth, it wasn't exactly so. Han Shi recounted a tale from the past. A monk once took the last surviving heir of a fallen dynasty into exile. The two of them fled into the freezing mountains, enduring severe hunger. In desperation, the monk resorted to feeding his own flesh to the young heir to keep him alive. When the heir discovered the truth, he swore to repay the monk's kindness once he reclaimed the throne. Eventually, the heir did return and seized power, becoming king. The new ruler sought to reward the monk, but the monk refused, stating that he had merely done his duty. Afterward, the monk carried his elderly mother up a mountain to live in seclusion. Hoping to force the monk out of hiding, the king ordered the entire mountain to be set ablaze. However, when the fire had consumed everything, all that remained was the monk and his mother, their bodies burned to death beneath a lone tree. To honor the monk's sacrifice, people established the Hanshi festival and observed a taboo against using fire. Nanju knew that Han Shi had existed for a long time, so he asked whether Han Shi or Luang was older. Han Shi admitted that Luang was still the older one because Luang possessed immense divine power and had fought countless evil spirits. Despite being the strongest among the calendar spirits, Luang was always amicable with the others and never arrogant. Suddenly, other calendar spirits spoke up, expressing their desire to go outside and meet Hua Zhao. Nanju released them, and only the two brothers, Zhao Nian and Da Nian, along with Yun Zhao, appeared. Shortly after, Luang also showed himself. Yun Zhao then wondered why the calendar spirit Qinming was not present. The mention of Qinming seemed to irritate Da Nian. He explained that the Qingming festival had overshadowed the Hanshi festival, causing Han Shi to weaken as he was gradually forgotten. However, Han Shi held no resentment. Long ago, Qinming had been deeply saddened when his festival was regarded as a day of mourning. Han Shi had advised him that every festival held its own meaning, and that, in time, he would come to understand the significance of his existence. Da Nian believed that Qinming had never fully accepted being grouped together with Han Shi, which was why he always remained distant from him. Meanwhile, the construction foreman of a certain bridge project once again found himself in trouble. His workers had recently unearthed several corpses beneath the site. The foreman ordered them to keep quiet and not report the matter to the police. At first, he thought the situation wouldn't escalate, but soon another worker came running in to inform him that even more bodies had been discovered. That night, as Nanju was chatting with Han Shi, the construction foreman suddenly called, asking for help. Something major had happened. Nanju decided to go investigate and told Han Shi to return home. However, Han Shi insisted on accompanying him, as he was responsible for protecting Nanju while he was on duty. The two arrived at the construction site to assess the situation. Han Shi quickly sensed a powerful evil mist in the area. Nanju proceeded to examine the pit that the workers had excavated. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Thinking there were no ghosts or spirits, Nanju let his guard down only for a shovel to be suddenly flung into the air. Then, evil spirits began pouring out of the hole one after another, forcing Nanju to engage in battle. He summoned his sword and fought back. Nanju urged Hanshi not to overuse his power, but Hanshi insisted that it was his duty to assist a Laishi like him. Left with no choice, Nanju allowed Hanshi to support him in battle. However, no matter how many spirits they defeated, they showed no sign of decreasing. Gradually, the two were pushed into a corner. Suddenly, the evil spirits retreated and merged into a massive serpent. Nanju's sword unexpectedly flew off on its own to engage the serpent, forcing Hanshu to intervene and freeze it with his magic. Hanshi urged Nanju to leave, but he refused to entrust everything to the calendar spirits alone. Instead, he pulled out the calendar of heaven and earth and attempted to use a spell he had read in the book. As he chanted, storm clouds gathered above. The moment he finished, lightning struck down upon the serpent. Yet, the monster was not completely destroyed. Just then, a flying blade pierced the serpent's neck. Lawang had arrived. With a swift strike, he utterly annihilated the creature. However, Hanshi had now reached a dangerously weakened state from expending too much power. Nanju asked how Lawang had arrived, and he explained that he had sensed danger and came to investigate, only to find the giant serpent. Nanju then told Hanshi to return to the calendar to rest. But suddenly, Lawang lost control. Overcome by corruption, he lunged at Nanju, forcing Hanshi to unleash a powerful technique that dispelled the evil mist infecting Lawang. Hanshi then informed Nanju of Lawang's condition and had a request for him. Yet before he could finish speaking, he collapsed. The next morning, Nanju woke up at home and found Hanshi. He seemed to have recovered somewhat. Nanju asked if he had made up his mind. Hanshi was close to disappearing and wanted to spend his last day with Qin Ming. For today was the Qingming festival, a day when people honored the deceased. At this moment, the calendar spirit Qin Ming had also descended to the mortal realm to eliminate evil spirits. He soon encountered Hanshi and Nanju. However, instead of being pleased, Qin Ming appeared irritated, accusing Nanju of violating the rules by allowing Hanshi to remain here. Moreover, Qin Ming suspected that Hanshi had stayed behind only to supervise him, fearing that he was incapable of fulfilling his duties as a calendar spirit. Nanju, however, wanted Qin Ming to mind his words, reminding him that it was Hanshi who had single-handedly guided him to become the person he was today. Qin Ming, on the other hand, did not want Nanju interfering too much in their affairs. Later, Nanju met Situ, who curiously asked about Nanju's new acquaintance. Upon hearing Qin Ming's name, Situ assumed that it must have been an unfortunate name, given that it coincided with such a sorrowful festival. At that moment, Hanshi recalled how diligent Qin Ming had been in his training in the past. Although Hanshi believed that a calendar spirit only needed to perform their duty well, Qin Ming had always wanted to grow stronger to protect Hanshi. The group then ascended the mountain to visit their ancestors' graves. Situ had gone ahead first. Hanshi commented that Qin Ming was now strong enough to be one of the most powerful calendar spirits. However, Qin Ming disliked being treated as though he were still a child who needed Hanshi's care. When they reached the grave of Nanju's grandmother, he reminisced about the past. He remembered how she had never shed a tear when bringing him here. Hanshi remarked that she had likely foreseen this day and wanted to set an example of strength and resilience for Nanju. Qin Ming then overheard a nearby family discussing a willow branch. It was said that, long ago, a monk and his mother had perished in a fire beneath a willow tree, and not long after, that very branch began to grow anew. Because of this, people believed that the Qingming festival and the tradition of placing willow branches on ancestral graves had originated from the Hanshi festival. Qin Ming recalled how, in the past, others often mocked him, calling him weak and saying that he relied entirely on Hanshi. They claimed that without Hanshi, Qin Ming was nothing. Because of this, Qin Ming had gradually lost all affection for Hanshi. The family also mentioned how the Qingming festival had grown in prominence, gradually replacing the Hanshi festival. Because the Hanshi festival prohibited the use of fire, people in ancient times were unable to cook food on that day, which led to its decline. Nanju felt somewhat indignant upon hearing this, but Hanshi had long accepted his fate. Qingming, however, was visibly angered. He repeatedly interfered, preventing the woman nearby from lighting a fire for her firecrackers. Eventually, Qingming deliberately allowed the fire to ignite, causing the firecrackers to go off wildly. Feeling that it was a bad omen, the woman decided to burn all of her spirit money at once. Hanshi advised them not to leave just yet and to stay behind to monitor the fire, lest it cause a forest fire. However, the woman ignored him and left. Not long after, the wind picked up, and evil spirits entered the flames. The fire suddenly flared up violently. Nanju tried to put it out, but the flames refused to die. Qingming told Hanshi that since he had weakened, he should stop interfering. Nanju then instructed the 2 calendar spirits to focus on rescuing people, while he handled the evil spirits. He used a spell to draw the spirits toward himself. Qingming's power was meant to promote growth and renewal, so he could not extinguish the fire, he could only suppress the evil spirits. This left Hanshi to freeze parts of the flames himself, but using his abilities to save both Qingming and the others gradually drained him. Even so, Qingming did not express any gratitude. Instead, he only told Hanshi to find a place to rest. But Hanshi persisted in fighting. As the battle raged on, they discovered that many people were still trapped in the fire. They had no choice but to go and rescue them. By this point, Nanju was completely exhausted. Qingming and Hanshi returned to assist him, as the villagers had already been evacuated. Suddenly, they realized that the family responsible for the fire was still trapped below. Nanju wanted to go save them, but he no longer had the strength. Thus, Hanshi made his decision. Qingming tried to stop him, warning that Hanshi had little divine power left. But Hanshi refused to think about himself, he prioritized the lives of the people. That was the duty of a calendar spirit. Summoning every last ounce of his remaining divine power, Hanshi created a massive formation. Snow began to fall from the sky, swiftly extinguishing the raging fire across the entire mountain. Hanshi then completely faded away and passed on. Meanwhile, the family responsible for the fire seemed unaware of how the blaze had started, which enraged Qingming. He was furious at their irresponsibility, which had led to Hanshi's permanent departure. Just as he was about to attack them, Nanju stepped in to stop him. Nanju realized that Qingming had been consumed by the evil mist and urged the family to flee. Qingming blamed everything on mortals. He believed that it was because of them that Hanshi had grown weak, and now, because of them, Hanshi had vanished. At that moment, Luang arrived and struck the evil mist away from Qingming. Qingming angrily pointed out that everyone seemed to value mortals. Did that mean calendar spirits like them were not worthy of the same importance? Luang replied that Qingming still failed to understand Hanshi's heart. Years ago, Qingming had never accepted the fact that Hanshi was injured while protecting humans. But Hanshi believed that they existed because of humanity's faith in them. Even if evil spirits were born from humans, it was still their duty to protect mankind. Because Qingming had been mocked countless times as Hanshi's shadow, he had worked tirelessly to grow stronger, determined to no longer need Hanshi's protection. But as Qingming grew stronger, Hanshi only became weaker due to humanity gradually forgetting him. Yet Hanshi never once abandoned his resolve to protect the people. Nanju then revealed to Qingming that Hanshi had stayed in the mortal world today for one final reason: to spend his last moments with Qingming. Hanshi had known for some time that he would soon disappear, so he had chosen to remain and witness how much Qingming had grown. Everyone was heartbroken over Hanshi's departure. However, Nanju still held on to the belief that there might be a way to bring a calendar spirit back. Luang, regretfully, told him that what he wished for was impossible. Calendar spirits, like humans, could not return once they had passed away. They had all long accepted that they would one day face their end. Nanju then asked Luwang where Qinming had gone. Luwang replied that Qinming should be left alone for now. At this moment, Qinming remained on the mountain, drowning his sorrows in alcohol. But no matter how much he drank, he could not forget Han Shi. Suddenly, the evil mist reappeared. It whispered to Qinming, affirming his thoughts that humans were not worthy of protection. They were nothing but irresponsible beings who had betrayed Han Shi. Despite being saved by Han Shi countless times, they had so easily forgotten him. Indeed, mortals were undeserving of a calendar spirit's protection. Qinming, once again, began to succumb to the evil mist's influence. That night, Nanju had gone to sleep. As it was nearing midnight, he still remembered Luwang's warning that the evil spirits on the mountain were not ordinary and that he should keep a close eye on Qinming. Qinming's unstable emotions made him highly vulnerable to another invasion by the evil mist. Nanju later woke up to find Qinming approaching him. However, instead of attacking, Qinming had slain an evil spirit that had been targeting Nanju. Qinming apologized for arriving late. He then recounted how, just as he was about to be completely overtaken by the evil spirits, a branch from Han Shi had awakened him. Although he had fought back and eradicated the evil spirits, he had realized that they were aiming for Nanju all along, so he had returned as quickly as possible. The evil spirits were now becoming more unpredictable, so Qinming urged Nanju to stay vigilant. In the following days, Nanju repeatedly faced strange attacks. As a result, the calendar spirits had to use spells to protect Nanju's entire home. Meanwhile, at a construction site, the obese evil god, Sui Ping, and the one from before was relaxing when suddenly, the master of the snakes that had been attacking Nanju these past few days returned. Sui Ping scoffed, saying that she was wasting her efforts by persistently attacking Nanju. After all, he had powerful calendar spirits protecting him. Furthermore, her reckless actions on the mountain were going against their master's wishes, so she had better be careful. But the woman retorted that Sui Ping An was no better. After all, the treasure he had waited 100 years for had ended up in Nanju's hands. Hearing this, Sui Ping An felt uneasy and decided to leave. The next morning, Nanju went out with a calendar spirit. Knowing that today was the Zhongwu festival, the calendar spirit's name was also Zhongwu. Zhongwu noticed two children near Nanju's house buying toy snakes. Immediately, he forbade them, claiming that such things were unsafe. The children then pestered Nanju, so he had no choice but to buy the toy snakes for them. He thought Zhongwu was being overly strict, but Zhongwu insisted that children needed to be properly disciplined from a young age. Later, Nanju invited Zhongwu to eat some glutinous rice cakes, as he had bought quite a variety. However, Zhongwu argued that only the original flavor was truly traditional. He criticized Nanju and modern people for discarding old traditions. Left with no choice, Nanju complied. But as time passed, Zhongwu imposed even more restrictions on him, banning him from eating potatoes, tofu, and countless other things, making Nanju feel quite frustrated. At the very least, he could still watch the Dragon Boat Festival. At one point, Nanju noticed Zhongwu leaving. Zhongwu explained that he was going to buy traditional liquor for the Zhongwu festival. Nanju, meanwhile, observed that the sky seemed ready to rain. Zhongwu later arrived at the supermarket, but found no liquor to his satisfaction, so he decided to return home. By then, the rain had already started, so he hurried back as fast as he could. On his way, he accidentally ran into a girl calling for help. A snake suddenly lunged at her, so Zhongwu quickly drove it away. But as someone who upheld strict discipline, he disapproved of the girl's revealing attire. He was about to leave when the girl insisted on repaying him. Then, in an instant, she circled behind him and bit him. That night, Situ came to find Nanju and reported that there had been frequent deaths at a nearby hotel. Nanju told Situ to be careful, as he himself never visited hotels. Suddenly, Zhongwu returned. He was now being controlled by the snake woman through the bite wound. At this point, they realized that she was also responsible for the recent hotel deaths and that she was indeed targeting Nanju. Zhongwu approached Nanju and handed him the liquor, but Nanju sensed that something about him seemed off. Then, Zhongwu snapped out of it, but he was clutching his head in pain. The snake woman knew that her venom could not fully subdue a calendar spirit. Right after, another murder case was reported. Situ suspected that a snake woman demon was behind it and expressed a desire to see her. Nanju, knowing it was pointless, still tried to warn Situ to be careful. The snake woman immediately noticed a new target and decided to leave in pursuit. The next day, Nanju and Zhongwu visited the hotel where the murders had occurred. Nanju found it strange that there was no trace of any evil spirits there. He also questioned Zhongwu about the red mark on his neck, suspecting that he might have had an encounter with a woman. But Zhongwu, being strict and devoted to his duty, dismissed such thoughts. He figured it must have been from the girl he saved the other day. That night, Nanju browsed the news online and discovered something unusual. The entire city was suspiciously clean. Not a single evil spirit had appeared, despite the increasing number of murders. It was as if something or someone had scared them away. As for the murders, they might have been the work of a serial killer. Meanwhile, a drunken man was making his way home when he was suddenly drained dry by some unknown force, his body completely vanishing. At that moment, Sui Ping appeared and confronted the entity that had just consumed the man. This being was Santai, a subordinate of the master whom Sui Ping served. It was actually this obese evil god who had been clearing out the evil spirits in the area, seemingly preparing for some larger scheme. Sui Ping mentioned that the snake woman had been obsessively hunting Nanju, but Santai simply ignored her actions. By then, Nanju and Zhongwu had returned home and encountered Situ. Situ suddenly approached them, speaking incoherent words, before unexpectedly pulling out a knife and attacking Nanju. Nanju managed to dodge in time and noticed a bite mark on Situ's neck identical to Zhongwu's. The snake woman then launched another surprise attack on Nanju, but he narrowly evaded it. Seeing this, she decided to retreat but left behind an address for Nanju. If he didn't show up, Situ would be her next victim. Zhongwu now fully realized who was behind all of this. He revealed that the snake woman was Viper, the very same girl he had saved earlier. Determined to put an end to this, Nanju and Zhongwu headed to the construction site, where they found Situ waiting for them. While Zhongwu was treating Situ, Nanju went to confront Viper. He recalled that she was connected to the snake he had previously slain alongside Han Shi and Lo Wang. Nanju speculated that the corpses in the pit were all victims of Viper and accused her of causing havoc in the human world. However, Viper argued that life followed the rule of the strong preying on the weak. She claimed that hunting prey to feed her offspring was a natural thing. But Nanju countered that human lives were not for her to decide. Viper then retorted if Nanju had killed her offspring, did that mean he had the right to make such decisions? She attacked him, forcing Nanju to draw his sword in defense. However, the evil spirits she had summoned emitted a toxin that made it difficult for Nanju to breathe. Zhongwu rushed to assist him, while Sui Ping created a formation around Nanju's location and reported back to Santai. Santai, seeing that the stage was set, merely awaited the actors to play their parts. And the awaited actor had arrived. Lo Wang descended from the sky and struck Viper, injuring her. She had been waiting for Lo Wang, eager to take her revenge. But just then, Santai ordered Sui Ping to activate the formation. Rain suddenly poured down, making Zhongwu wary of a bad omen. He urged Lo Wang to retreat, but Lo Wang wanted to finish the fight quickly. Then, without warning, the formation activated. Lo Wang shoved Nanju out of the formation's boundary just in time. Suddenly, evil spirits from all around converged upon Lo Wang, possessing him. Viper, realizing this unexpected turn of events, decided to retreat. Nanju unsheathed his sword and attempted to destroy the formation, but it was futile. The formation was constructed from thousands of evil spirits, making it nearly impossible to break. the Wang began losing himself, gradually falling under the evil spirit's control. Zhongwu intended to take Nanju and escape, but Nanju was determined to save Luwang first. At that moment, Sui Ping An was also unexpectedly pulled into the formation. He then realized that he had been deceived by San Tai. Despite this, Nanju pleaded with Zhongwu to let him try one last time. Nanju then used his sword and chanted an incantation from his book. Summoning a black dragon, the dragon charged straight into the formation. Luwang was saved, and fortunately, he had not yet been completely possessed by the evil spirits. Zhongwu, seeing that Luwang was safe, stated that he would need time to recover. Meanwhile, Nanju recalled a vision he had when he was poisoned by Viper in it. Viper was unearthed by Sui Ping An, a snake, and an unknown figure who had assigned her a task. A few days later, a new calendar spirit arrived. She was Sheng Ming. At that moment, she and Nanju were at a shrine where people typically prayed for love. However, Sheng Ming destroyed all the red strings of fate. Her reasons were twofold. First, she had suffered emotional wounds before and was jealous of others' happiness. Second, she believed that if love could be severed as easily as a string, then it was never true love to begin with. For those wondering about Sheng Ming's identity, she simply represented Valentine's Day upon returning home. Sheng Ming saw displays of romance everywhere. Even the television was filled with romantic dramas. Among them was an interview featuring an elderly woman who had waited for her beloved for 40 years. Nanju remarked that this was what true love looked like, and he wanted to help the old woman. Sheng Ming, however, dismissed him as still too young to understand. Just then, Sidu arrived and was surprised to see Sheng Ming. At first, he thought he had come to the wrong house, but Nanju was indeed inside. Situ then assumed that Nanju had gotten a girlfriend before he did, forcing Nanju to explain the situation. Nanju then asked why Situ had come, to which Situ replied that he had a guest today. And that guest turned out to be none other than the elderly woman from the television interview. The old lady brought some gifts for Nanju. Sheng Ming immediately recognized the pastry. It was the kind that women in the past used to give to their lovers, much like how people gift chocolates today. The old woman then asked Nanju to help her find the man she had waited for all these years. The problem was that if he were still alive, he would be around 70 years old by now. But whether he was alive or dead, she still wished to see him one last time. Sheng Ming pointed out that if he were still alive, he might already have a family of his own. Her comment was a bit tactless, but she still wanted to help, partly to show Nanju how easily modern men succumb to temptation. She then asked the elderly woman if she had kept anything belonging to the man. The woman revealed that she had a trumpet. Nanju drove Sidu outside, preventing him from peeking, as Sheng Ming was about to cast a spell. She examined the red string of fate connected to the trumpet to trace where it led. After some time searching, Sheng Ming successfully located the person they were looking for. The two then arranged a meeting with the old woman at a shrine. The old woman had meticulously prepared for this reunion. However, Sheng Ming bluntly warned her that after so many years, the person she sought might have changed in appearance significantly. Yet the old woman was confident that she would not mistake him. So, Sheng Ming instructed her to go behind the large tree to meet him. Sheng Ming and Nanju made a bet: if the old woman had a happy reunion, Sheng Ming would tell Nanju her own story. But if the reunion ended in disappointment, then Nanju would have to serve as her attendant for a day. The old woman walked toward the tree, and indeed, she found the man from her past. However, the elderly man merely stood up in surprise, walked past her, and approached his wife. The old woman called out his name, but the man showed no sign of recognition, puzzled as to how she knew his name. The old woman then introduced herself suddenly. The old man clutched his head in pain. Then, regaining his composure, he insisted that he did not know her and left with his wife. Sheng Ming, watching this scene, was deeply pained. It reminded her too much of her own past. Nanju asked Sheng Ming if she had mistaken the person, but the old woman firmly stated that she had not. Determined to see him again, she went with Nanju to the old man's house. When they arrived, Nanju noticed that the door was unlocked, so he stepped inside and was startled to see numerous notes stuck onto various objects in the house. The old man caught sight of Nanju and mistook him for an intruder. But then the old woman stepped forward, claiming to be his wife. At that moment, the woman who had been with the old man earlier arrived. She introduced herself as a community officer in charge of taking care of the old man. She explained that he had once gone to war and suffered a severe head injury, which disrupted his memories. Since then, he had mistakenly believed that she was his wife. He had no family and spent his days clinging to a single photograph. The woman clarified the situation to help the old man calm down. Only then did the old woman realize. The family photograph he had been holding onto was missing her face. That was why he did not recognize her. She recalled the past on the day she bid him farewell as he went to war. He had left her the trumpet and the song they had composed together. The old woman then took out the protection charm she had sewn for him, but the old man snatched it away, claiming it belonged to his wife. Once again, his memories of war surfaced, throwing him into a state of distress. With no other choice, the old woman followed Nanju's advice and left. However, before departing, she played the melody of the song they had once written together. Upon hearing it, the old man suddenly remembered she was his wife. Shengming and Nanju left, allowing the elderly couple to reunite. Nanju realized that Shengming was not as cold-hearted as he had initially thought. However, a bet was still a bet. She had to tell her story. She reluctantly began in the past. She had fallen in love with the Lai Shi of that era. Together, they had endured countless life and death situations. However, on the day of their engagement, Lai Shi was holding hands with someone else, which made her feel like a fool. But Nanju suspected that Lai Shi must have had his own inner turmoil, because if he had once risked his life to save her, why would he betray her like that? At this point, the truth was revealed. After Shengming left, Lai Shi had ordered the Viper by his side to leave because he had been severely wounded and was about to die. He decided to do this in order for Shengming to sever her feelings for him and to harbor hatred towards him, because he wanted her to forget him and live on. After some time, Nanju had been attacked much less frequently. One day, while he was watching TV, the contractor called for help, seeking Nanju's assistance. When he arrived, he saw that the spiritual talisman pasted on the door had been torn off. The foreman, upon hearing Nanju's arrival, immediately ran out and clung to him, pleading for help. Suddenly, a dark aura descended, sensing the threat. Nanju was forced to draw his sword in defense. Moments later, 4 blue flames appeared. The flames coalesced, forming a palanquin. From within, a figure emerged, a man wearing a demonic mask. This person quickly approached and knocked Nanju's sword away. However, he was not an enemy but a god named Zhongyang. Upon entering the house, the contractor informed Nanju that he had been experiencing strange occurrences recently, not at the construction site anymore, but right at home. Zhongyang examined the situation and discovered that the contractor's house had been attacked by high-level evil spirits. Nanju was surprised to learn that evil spirits also have a tiered classification. Zhongyang explained that high-level evil spirits are those that have taken a specific form and are usually more cunning than ordinary evil spirits. Their goal is often to spread disaster on a large scale, and the fact that the contractor had become the target of a high-level evil spirit suggested that there was something unusual about him. Suddenly, the evil spirit returned, so Zhongyang threw out a chain to protect the door. Unexpectedly, the evil spirit charged in and was restrained by Zhongyang's chain. Nanju drew his sword to exorcise it, but the spirit quickly escaped. After examining the situation, Zhongyang recognized that the evil spirit was a blood light, born from human bloodshed accidents. Once it targets someone, it will follow that person until their death. High-level evil spirits like this one have fed on human fear for thousands of years. In ancient times, there was the most powerful evil spirit, regarded as the master of all evil spirits. Though the creator of the calendar of heaven and earth defeated and sealed it, over time, the seal weakened, and someone conspired to resurrect the master of evil spirits into the world. Lai Shi had worked hard to stop this plan, and although most of the enemy's strength was destroyed, a few had managed to escape. Zhang Yang did not understand why a high-level evil spirit like the Bloodlight would choose to target an ordinary person like the contractor. That night, the contractor dreamed of having unearthed a treasure at the construction site recently. Although the workers had warned him not to take it, fearing disaster, it seemed that he had ignored them and brought the artifact home. The next morning, a man who claimed to be the director of a famous corporation came to meet the contractor. He made it clear that he wanted to buy the artifact the contractor had unearthed a few days ago. Though the artifact could help change one's fate, it could also backfire. Seeing the other party was willing to offer a large sum of money, the contractor believed the treasure was not ordinary, so he decided to keep it and sent the director away. Nanju and Zhang Yang arrived at this point and saw the director leaving. Zhang Yang noticed the director and found him somewhat suspicious. That evening, Nanju and Zhang Yang, along with the contractor, went to hunt down the Bloodlight. Nanju noticed Zhang Yang was quite strong, and he revealed that he was born on the Human Ghost Festival, a day when the power he wielded was second only to Luwang. Soon after, the Bloodlight arrived to attack. Zhang Yang vowed not to let it escape again. He put on a mask, took out his weapon, and began chanting a spell. Nanju also drew his sword to block its attacks, asking Zhang Yang to bind the Bloodlight. Meanwhile, San Tai arrived at the contractor's house to take the artifact while the Bloodlight was distracting them outside. However, it seemed that the artifact was well protected by a spell. By this time, the Bloodlight was already trapped by Zhang Yang's spell, allowing Nanju to cast a spell and strike a powerful blow. However, Nanju was soon knocked back, so he asked Zhang Yang to finish it off. Zhang Yang then chanted a spell, creating a bow and shooting an arrow that pierced straight through the Bloodlight. Just when it seemed the Bloodlight had been defeated, a distant blow struck Nanju. Luwang sensed that Nanju was in trouble and appeared. Zhang Yang examined the wound and noted that the protective charm Nanju had worn had reduced the damage, so it was still treatable. However, the healing methods of ordinary humans would not suffice, so Luwang would take Nanju to someone who could. Luwang and Zhang Yang then took Nanju to a ruin. Luwang remembered that he had been there before, exterminating evil spirits with Nanju's grandmother. The two of them suddenly heard the sound of a flute and then traveled by boat to a mansion, where they met the person who had been playing the flute. At this moment, Nanju dreamed that he was lost somewhere. Suddenly, his protective charm spoke to him, advising him not to get lost here, and pulled him out of the dream. Nanju then heard that Luwang had returned after 20 years, and the person who saved him seemed to realize that Nanju still didn't know his true identity. Nanju then reached for the protective charm, which caught Luwang's attention. The person who had saved him introduced himself as Jiru, assuring Nanju that he could rest here as this place was separate from the normal world. Nanju recalled how his grandmother had given him this charm and thought that his parents had left it for him because they had some hardships and couldn't stay with him. Jiru explained that this charm was a treasure of his family, and that Nanju was a member of that family, the family that created the calendar of heaven and earth. Upon hearing this, Nanju asked where his parents were. Luwang decided to tell the story. Years ago, on one of his workdays, he had gone with Nanju's grandmother to exterminate evil spirits here. However, he had been too late, and evil spirits had killed Nanju's parents. At that time, his grandmother had only been able to save Nanju. The two of them then met Jiru, who had come to take the family members back to bury them. He also recognized that Nanju would later be chosen by the calendar of heaven and earth, so he left Nanju with his grandmother to be raised by her. If Nanju ever encountered trouble, he should come to find him. Jiru explained that their family had often been pursued by evil spirits, so they rarely left the hidden barrier of this place. Nanju's parents had probably wanted to take him out to see the New Year's Eve outside, which led to what had happened. For the next 2 days, Nanju stayed here to recover, while Lo Wang went on patrol to protect the area. During this time, Santai was still angry for not being able to obtain the artifact and had sent evil spirits to monitor the contractor and prepare something for him. 2 days passed, and Nanju had gradually recovered. Jiru informed him that the next day he could leave. Nanju asked why this place was so safe, and Jiru explained how the barrier worked. Lo Wang then returned to report that everything was fine, but he himself was not fine as his old illness had flared up again. Lo Wang didn't want anyone to worry, as Jiru had said that his illness could be cured using the treasure book he had. Jiru also realized that their time here was running out. That night, Lo Wang began to darken again, while Santai had found Jiru's mansion and decided to send one of his subordinates with a group of evil spirits to attack. The evil spirits then continuously attacked the mansion's barrier. Though it held up for a while, the overwhelming number of evil spirits soon caused the barrier to collapse. Jiru wanted Nanju to fall back since he had not fully recovered, but Zhang Yang arrived to help both of them. He asked Jiru to move Nanju back. Nanju didn't want to run away, so Zhang Yang had no choice but to step forward to keep the evil spirits away from Nanju. However, Santai kept sending more evil spirits, forcing Zhang Yang to take out his weapon to fight back. Jiru suspected that the evil spirits were targeting something inside the mansion, the latter half of the calendar of heaven and earth. Meanwhile, Lo Wang had found a room where the treasure was kept and discovered a switch that opened a secret passage. Santai's subordinate arrived but was controlled by Lo Wang. Shortly after, Nanju arrived and the subordinate fled. Nanju asked Lo Wang to go outside to help, but he was still not fully recovered. The evil spirits retreated, and just as Lo Wang was about to attack Nanju, he suddenly regained his senses. Jiru realized that the room had suffered no damage, which was a good sign. The latter half of the calendar of heaven and earth had disappeared with its creator, so this room only contained protective mechanisms for the mansion. The next day, Nanju prepared to leave, deciding to let Lo Wang rest for a while he and Zhang Yang would manage things for the time being. Jiru then gave Nanju a farewell gift. Not long after leaving, Nanju realized it was a notebook detailing various aspects of his family's history. Upon returning home, Nanju met his neighbor, who mentioned that a new mother and son had moved in. The neighbor explained that the mother was seriously ill and often hospitalized, while the son seemed cold but had a kind heart. The family was in difficult financial straits. The father had been a police officer but had died in the line of duty, and the son didn't seem to mourn his loss much because the father had rarely been home, abandoning his family. Now that the father was gone and the mother was ill, the son had to use the money his father left behind and work extra jobs to take care of her. Suddenly, news appeared online about the father, and Nanju was horrified by the malicious person who had posted this. That evening, Nanju and Qinming prepared for the Zhongqiu festival, during which Nanju would perform a ritual to revive Hanxi. Although Qinming wasn't certain that the ritual would succeed, he helped Nanju in every way he could. The next morning, Nanju met the deity of the day, Zhongqiu, who had just bought mooncakes and almost dropped them. He demonstrated his martial arts skills to save the cakes. Zhongqiu then asked why Nanju bought cakes from this shop, and Nanju explained that his grandmother used to buy from there, and the shop allowed customers to make their own cakes and set a delivery date. Zhongqiu asked if Nanju was ready for the evening's ritual, to which Nanju replied that he had prepared well to resurrect Hanxi. His only concern was whether Lo Wang had recovered. Zhongqiu thought that Lo Wang only needed a few days of rest with the calendar, and everything would be fine. Meanwhile, the new neighbor's son unexpectedly received a box of mooncakes delivered by Zhongqiu. This reminded him of his father, so he hid the box and didn't show it to his mother. He then went to work but struggled with his job distributing flyers. Zhongqiu and Nanju came to help, but suddenly, the news reported that a dangerous criminal was still at large, warning the public to be cautious. The neighbor's son quickly realized that his mother was in danger, as the criminal had come to their house to take revenge on her. The criminal was targeting her because the neighbor's father, a police officer, had arrested his accomplices. Evil spirits took over the criminal, and the son was unable to save his mother. Zhang Qiu swiftly dealt with the evil spirits and rescued both mother and son. When the son regained consciousness, Nanju reassured him that everything was fine and the criminal had been caught. The mother wanted to check if the box of mooncakes Zhang Qiu had sent was still intact, but the son snatched it and threw it away, saying that his father had always focused on his work and never spent time with them, so he didn't want to accept the man as his father. However, the mother told him that the mooncakes had been made by his father himself to give to them, as he knew his job was dangerous and that he might not return home for the Zhangqiu festival. So, he made the cakes himself and had the shop deliver them as a way of celebrating with his family. Nanju remarked that the father was an admirable person who had chosen to sacrifice his own happiness to help others, and the son should be proud of him. Zhang Qiu then invited the son to try the mooncake, and he cried as he ate the cake his father had made for him. Nanju and Zhang Qiu then left to prepare for the ritual to revive Hanxi. All the deities gathered and performed the ceremony with Nanju. However, the image of Hanxi only appeared briefly but did not fully resurrect. Nanju explained that the deity needed human offerings to fully revive Hanxi, and they would have to wait until a location where the tradition of the Hanxi ritual was still practiced, so Qin Ming need not worry. The group then gathered together to celebrate the Zhangqiu festival. Zhangqiu noticed that Qin Ming still missed Hanxi, so he comforted him, saying that next year they might be able to celebrate Zhangqiu together with Hanxi, just like this year. Later, Nanju brought some wine to offer to Luwang and asked how his injuries were healing. Luwang thanked Nanju for his concern, explaining that he was feeling much better. Nanju then expressed that the peace the people had enjoyed was thanks to the deities like them, and he requested to offer Luwang a toast. The scene ends with this moment, and the film concludes.